Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Brown here with you on this Monday morning. It is Happy Columbus Day. What a great day. It's a holiday for most people in the civilized world. It is for me because the banks are closed. So we will be chatting here with you for the next couple of hours. Got a great lineup today in store for you. Ken Capps will join us. Great sports writer, Football Writers Association of America. He's going to check in with us. He was at the Red River Shootout Saturday. God, what a game that was. I'm already getting a lot of comments from people. I'll get to those here in a second. Second segment, Doug Dean checks in. AU Dose in Birmingham. Auburn Tigers get ready for a big matchup in Baton Rouge Saturday night, 6 p.m. on the Color TV. And the top of hour number 2, Franz Beard, GatorBaitMedia.com will check in. Franz always has his great daily thoughts. Show prep is what I call it. And we'll talk about the Gators. Got the win over Florida. We'll talk about the upcoming schedule. Wes Moore checks in. ESPN 103.7, The Buzz over in Little Rock will check in with us as well, talking about the Razorbacks and 4 straight losses for the Hogs. Not good. They're in these games. They all go into the fourth quarter. They're not closing. Play calling, who knows? They moved a lot of guys around on the offensive line. That's what they pay those coaches to do. But what we are going to do now is talk about that Red River rivalry, man. I've watched a lot of them. Ken, I think this is 45 straight that you've been to. Good God almighty. I was telling people, I said, 2 years ago when it was announced that Texas and OU were coming into the league, I think it was like that deferred, enlistment in the Marine Corps. You sign up. I mean, I don't have to go till 2 years. And all of a sudden, it's getting closer. And you're bringing in, and look, Texas and Oklahoma, we've all watched them, but now they're marrying into the family. What a game Saturday. Ken, have at it. That was awesome.
Well, you're talking about today being Columbus Day and a day off for the banks. I don't know if they still do this in Oklahoma, but when Oklahoma wins the Red River game, they give the students off. They give the students a day off of school today. So if that's still happening, about 40,000 kids up there at Oklahoma are sleeping in today and getting over their hangovers from the State Fair of Texas and throwing down after that game because man, it was just a beautiful. I mean, it's been over 100 degrees here for 95 straight days, and then we have a day down there on Saturday where it was in the 60s and 70s, a beautiful day. And then it's the Dylan Gabriel show for Oklahoma. He comes out and just puts on a show. Texas just continues to shoot itself in the foot over and over and over again the whole game. But somehow, some way, by some miracle, Brett Auburn kicks a field goal with 1:17 to play, and the Horns are up by 3 points. And so Texas fans are thinking, hey, man, OU's got no timeouts. They've got very little time on the clock. They got the ball on the 25-yard line. They got 75 yards to go. And what does Dylan Gabriel do? Takes him down the field, scores a touchdown, and wins the game. I mean, hats off to Oklahoma, man. They that's going to be one for the legend books. And what a way to close out the Texas OU rivalry in the Big 12 and bring it to the SEC.
Yeah, and Ken, it was just 92,000. It was just unbelievable atmosphere. And I'm glad Commissioner Sankey was there. I don't know if you got a chance to talk to him, what he thought about it, but if you walked away from that and you weren't impressed, I guess you weren't, impressed when you got to the top of Mount Everest, if you ever climbed it. That's an incredible environment. And Ken, I've got a story idea for you. Somebody, and you would be a great one to do it, go to, I think it's Honolulu, to that St. Louis Catholic school where all these quarterbacks, Marcus Mariota, Is Dylan Gabriel another one of those kids from Hawaii?
Yeah. Well, if you want to send me to Honolulu, and the folks over at Wynn Toyota want to give me a truck to go over there, I'll somehow drive to Hawaii from Dallas from the Metroplex, and right. I'll be happy to go. Oh yeah, I was so impressed with Dylan, and on the flip side of that, Rob, I was very surprised that Texas did not have a game plan for him coming in, like they did for Jalen Milroe when they played Alabama over in T-Town. And then once he started, ripping him up there in the first half, that they didn't adjust for him in the second half, because, I wasn't in the press box for this game. I was sitting there in the stands with my wife and my daughter and my best friend that we have gone to 45 games together straight. And, heck, we could call it when we knew that Dylan Gabriel was going to do a quarterback draw or was going to take off running. So if we can see it from up there, surely the Texas defense and the Texas coaches could see it. But again, it was the Dylan Gabriel show starring Dylan Gabriel. My hat's off to him.
Well, and I will say he was at Central Florida, and then he transferred somewhere maybe briefly. But he just finds excuses to win. And Quinn Ewers, he's a hell of a. These guys are both going to play in the NFL, I think, for many years to come. Maybe Texas scored a little bit too early when Brett Auburn, love that last name, kicked that field goal. But Brent Venables, talk about him. You sent me some good stuff last week that we shared and retweeted. And I always ask every guest on the show, share the show. We'll share your stuff. I love it. You put out great content. You've been around Brent Venables a good bit, haven't you?
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Well, remember we talked about this last year, and I remember it clear as day. Me and you talking about it after the 49-0 game last year that Texas won. And everybody's on Brent Venables. Is he? Is he capable of being a head coach? Is he a better coordinator? And what did me and you say? We said, hey, Brent Venables is going to be just fine. Okay. Yeah. He did not forget how to coach between Clemson and Norman. Okay. And now not only is he like the king of the party, he's probably odds on favorite for coach of the year. Oklahoma now probably is an odds on favorite for the CFP. It's a pretty good chance that UT and OU are going to meet again for the Big 12 championship in Jerry World here in December. And so it'll be interesting. Can Oklahoma beat Texas twice? This came up a few years ago where Texas beat Oklahoma during the regular season. That they met in the championship game, and then Oklahoma turned around and beat Texas. So there's still, as my best friend Joe, that we've been to all these games together, says, there's a lot of football left to be played, Ken. But Venables is doing just fine, and his defense played great. They sacked Ewers 5 times. Had him on the run the whole game. And first series of the game, boom, picked him off. Second series of the game, boom, picked him off. They came out with their red hair on fire, those Oklahoma Sooners, and they're to be commended for that win.
Well, they are, and the whole atmosphere from the beginning to the end, all the drone shots of the Texas State Fair and everything. The question that was asked over here at the farm, we had a bunch of people over here, guy watching football. You saw that menu we had Saturday, and it was unbelievable. And the question was from everybody, how the hell do you fry shots of Fireball? So they were saying, do they put it in a sausage casing? How did they do it? And then also talk about that hot tub venue you were at. That looked pretty cool. I love that.
Well, I appreciate you bringing that up, Rob, because, I really enjoyed being on the Saturday roundtable. And so I'm going to have to upgrade my equipment when I'm out on a remote like that, because it's just so loud out there at the State Fair that I could not find a quiet place where I could hear you and your other guests. so I could talk. And I was trying to have the background behind me so you could see that it was 8 o'clock in the morning, and there was already, God knows how many thousands of people already wandering around out there with their wax cup of ice cold beer and their corny dog from Fletcher's Corny Dogs already out there, but I couldn't hear. So I went over to this this hot tub building, and I said, "Hey, would you guys mind if I ducked in here? I'm doing this Sidelines national podcast and radio show. Would you mind if I ducked in here?" And they said, "Sure, come on in." And so it was quiet, and of course I turned my telephone around and showed y'all the bubbling hot tub, and then I showed you the ribs they were cooking on their grill that they were cooking for themselves to be so so I told them at the end after I signed off, I said, "Now look, if Texas wins this game, I'm going to come back and jump in this hot tub with all my clothes on and eat some of your ribs, if that's okay." And old Chip, I hope Chip is listening to the show because he gave me his business card. I told him I was going to talk about him today. I said, "No." And Chip said, "Well, you come on back here and do that." Well, since the score was 34-30 Oklahoma, I didn't have a chance to do that. So I'm going to take my family out to the fair here either this week or next week and just enjoy the dog races and the pig races. And, I won't be partaking in that fried red ball or hard ball or whatever whatever fireball, whatever it is. But I'm gonna have to go by and see old Chip again and jump in one of his hot tubs because he was very hospitable and now he knows about Sidelines with Rob. So you're well known in the Texas hot tub building.
Well, I really appreciate it. And how long does the Texas State Fair last? I know the Mid-South Fair in Memphis would be 10 days. Sometimes I would go back a second time to see both the Bearded Lady and Zip the Pinhead. It was awesome to go to the fair.
Well, this thing goes on for 3 weeks, and so we'll still go now till October the 22nd. And thank goodness, a lot of state fairs go in the summertime, and of course, if they tried to throw this thing in the summertime here in Dallas, you wouldn't have to fry anything in a fryer. You could just throw it on the ground and fry it. It's so doggone hot around here. Yeah. But the weather's beautiful, so we got 2 more weeks, and so it's gonna be great to get back out there. And but I tell you, there's a lot of talk this morning, as there always is. But there's a lot of talk this morning. As great as people think Steve Sarkisian is, and he's in absolutely no trouble, no hot seat problem or anything with him at all. There were so many different questionable calls that he made in game, especially when it's first and goal from the 1 yard line down there. And, 3 straight times he tries to run Jonathan Brooks right up the middle. And again, everybody sees it in the stadium coming, especially the Oklahoma 11 on defense. He gets stuffed 3 straight times. Then besides taking the points, he tries to go for it on 4th down. And this is a critical part of the game. And again, what's the definition of a good play? It works. He tries to throw the ball to Xavier Worthy on an inside slant. Right there on the inch line, and Worthy gets popped. They run the replay. The officials check it. And again, it's very questionable. But the ruling on the field is he was stopped short. And so Texas gets to his first and goal from the 1 and doesn't come away with any points. And it's like, gosh, try something else besides running Jonathan Brooks 3 times up the middle, because after the first 2 times, it ain't working. Yeah. And so, Sark's a great play caller, and I thought it was brilliant. I really did when he went for the fake punt there early, completely fooled Oklahoma, and I'm sure they've been sitting on that one, all year just waiting to use it. But again, came away with no points on that one. But again, Rob, I go back to what I said. Despite Texas shooting itself in the foot all day long, here they're ahead with 1:17 to play on your buddy Auburn's field goal. And remember, Auburn had been missing field goals the last 2 weeks, and he pops 3 of them off against Oklahoma. So he's dead solid perfect in this game. And like your And like your JW there, well, no, the guy before that just had a great comment. Yeah, I think Texas just left too much time on the clock. But when the Texas defense cannot stop Oklahoma with 0 timeouts on the clock and 75 yards to go, you don't deserve to win that game. You just flat don't.
Yeah. What was and I agree with you. Sarkisian's a hell of a coach. So is Brent Venables. And people, the story, and I've watched him because I know Tommy Tuberville has always been a huge fan of his work. He had that 10-year run. His kids played at Clemson, and you and I both talked about it. And we have a great correspondent that covers Oklahoma that's on with us, Tyler McComas, KREF in Oklahoma City, Norman, 4 hours a day, 2 to 6. Nothing but college football, man. Not a bad gig. But God, he's really good. And I got hooked up with him with Dan Matthews, the former executive producer of Chuck Oliver's Southern Sports Today in Atlanta. Now Dan is in Houston and will be on with us later this week. But, Brent Venables did not get a football lobotomy on the way to Norman. And when you have 22 players, the core of your Oklahoma team, including the future Heisman Trophy winner Caleb Williams, leave, that's tough to digest.
It really is, and, but it's the same thing like Sark. I mean, Sark had his very first year at Texas. He went 5-7, lost to Kansas for Pete's sake. And he had a tough year just like Venables did. And now look at both of them. I mean, the season is not over for Texas. So for all the Texas fans, the sun did come up yesterday morning. And the sun came up this morning. It's a beautiful day here in Dallas, the Metroplex. And so, I mean, everybody's goals are still right in front of them, but it's a lot sweeter in Norman, Oklahoma this morning than it is in Austin, Texas. And so we're going to see how it's all shook out. I tell you what I found out, and I found out this out from another Football Writer Association member, Kevin Sherrington, and this just shocked me to death. Brent Yormack, the commissioner of the Big 12, did not attend the game on Saturday. And I think that is just shocking, childish. And I think that is just absolutely I'm just shocked. I just cannot believe that he didn't do that. And again, I hearken back. I've said this so many times on this show this year. I was sitting there at Big 12 Media Days, right there in Jerry World this summer. And the first words out of his mouth were, or about some of the first sentences out of his mouth were, we are going to celebrate what Texas and Oklahoma have meant to the Big 12 all these years. And he said that, and ever since then, it's been just the opposite. And for, I thought that maybe, him and Sankey would be up in a suite somewhere, eating some, having a cold drink and eating some popcorn and, talking about, hey, you guys have a good time in the SEC with these guys. They've been great for the conference. Nope. Yormack was a no-show. And I thought that was really in poor taste.
Well, I've got friends of all different fan bases, and I'm never going to let a rivalry or politics interfere with a friendship. That's childish. I mean, hey, I hate that because Brett Yormack, look, it's not like the Big 12 is going to disappear.
No.
People saying, well, Arizona State and Arizona and Colorado and Utah, those are big time. Hey, look, you got Deion Sanders bringing that show to town. Let me tell you what, Ken, and give me your information again. I know it, but I want to put it up here on the screen, exactly how people can follow you day in and day out. Because, look, people don't read newspapers like they should, but if they could, they would, and they should. Well, that's a lot of onomatopoeia, it's alliteration or whatever. I mean, we both were drilled in our heads. But give me your exact information so I can type it up here right now. How people
sure. Well, where I do and see, I don't write as much as I used to because I'm really involved in the video world, and so I do my storytelling through video. But where I put up most of my stuff, and then it gets retweeted on the Football Writers at Football Writers the Twitter site is at Texas Six Man Ken. At Texas Six Man Ken is my Twitter handle. And where that comes from is my
I'm not looking at your address, but spelling out the number 6. TEX.
Yeah, spell it Texas 6. Spell out the number 6. Man Ken, and that comes from about 10 years ago when I had the best time, and I'm still a big fan of it, of covering Texas six-man football. That's the smallest classification of high school football here in Texas, and of course they play six-man football, and it is so much fun to watch. And I covered it for Dave Campbell's Texas Football and for Fox Sports, and still enjoy going to see it. And so I've never changed my Twitter handle. And so you go there and you'll be seeing some quotes today from both Venables and Sark from the post game. And then of course Sark will have his Monday press conference here at noon today, and then Venables will talk to the media tomorrow. He'll talk Tuesday about what's ahead. Texas has an off week this week, so they'll have some time to they'll either have some time to think about the game or stew about it. But they'll be off this week before they play. I think they play Houston on October the 21st.
All right, so that's it. Texas at Texas Six Man Ken.
Yep,
right there. Just double check it on the screen. But no, I've got you. I follow you on Twitter. But the more you write, the better it is. But you're doing a lot of video stuff. You mentioned the six-man football. That was a big deal in Nebraska too, and around the country. God bless America. It's football. And as Texas, you ain't going to get any more God and country patriotism than Texas and Oklahoma. And A&M, give them credit. And that just fits right in to the SEC. And I was thinking about looking at the map. I'll show you. I've got my new set that's been built, and it's really cool. I'm going to show you a better picture of it right here, but this is it. What it's going to look like, and one of my friends. It's all the states, and I've gone ahead and added Oklahoma and Texas, and it's going to be
good.
It's going to be horizontally, not vertically like that, but. It looks so good. One of my friends said, I thought it was a piece of chocolate cake. I was like, but it really is. I've got my friend that makes it, and she said she grew up in the country, and if you wanted a piece of furniture, well, you had to make it, and so learned how to do it, and does incredible with barnwood, cedar. They have 140 acres in North Mississippi, and they just go collect the wood and make whatever. I've had her make 6-foot long tables, end tables with the shotgun shells in the four corners, can do anything. And I'm excited about that set. The Oklahoma fans, the Texas fans, there's a lot of respect between the two of them. You've written about it. You will write about it. Talk about it.
Well, I'll tell you what, Rob, there was a lot more respect this year than there has been in years past. Because
going into the Marines together.
That's right. That's exactly right. And I think that has to do kind of with going to the SEC. I mean, usually after that game, there's a lot of smack talk. And of course, I tell you, the biggest collective unity there was at the game was when the stadium announcer came on in the third quarter and announced that beer sales will end at the end of the third quarter. And 92,000 people booed that. So Texas and Oklahoma had a common we're in agreement that was a bad idea. But yeah, there was a lot less animosity this year, and I think there was a growing respect between the two, because let me tell you, these programs don't like each other, and it's just like Alabama, Auburn, Ohio State, Michigan, on and on and on. And and there's a lot. I mean, this is the 119th time these teams have played, for Pete's sake. I mean, Think about it. They've played over centuries now, and but yeah, I was very impressed by that as well. And after the game, there wasn't a whole lot of booing at each other and yelling at each other. Everybody just kind of left the game. And of course, this is what really struck me, is after we finally got out of traffic and got home, what was on? The Alabama A&M game down at Kyle Field. And it's like, wow, next year, those are going to be 2 SEC games back to back. What a weekend, what a Saturday afternoon of college football. And it's all SEC.
Yeah. And I like that, somebody put up here a second ago. I'm trying to go find some of these comments, but JW in Natchez, Mississippi, one of the most beautiful cities in America. I think prior to the war between the states, it was the 4th or 5th wealthiest city in America. Great Catholic town up there on the bluff. Man, it's just Michael Campbell, Margaret Ite, great people I know, born and raised in Natchez. Two syllables, Mississippi. It's Mississippi. It's MISSISSIPPI. But the cool thing, you know what's going to be fun, Ken? Here's another story idea. I'm not trying to, you've forgotten how to do it better than I do, but we try to name every show now. That's what our producers are telling us to start doing. How about this fun one? A great story, and you might write about it. You probably already have. The battle for UT when University of Tennessee plays University of Texas. A little bit of history there. Sam Houston, Davy Crockett, Sam Bowie, the Alamo. I mean, how cool is that going to be? The tradition, and those are 2 of the top 10 winningest schools in the history of college football.
Oh yeah, I mean and both of them are orange, and they Texas, burnt orange is its own color scheme. They have their own. I forget what do they call it in a paint store? The color code or something. There's a Sherwin-Williams right down from the house. I'll have to go down and see what the actual number is. Maybe somebody can put it up on the screen. Yeah. But so yeah, I've already heard from the Tennessee fans that we're the right color of orange, and of course the people in Austin will say, no, we're not that bright, ugly orange. We're the burnt orange. So that's going to be a whole nother rivalry that's going to be revived. And of course, you got how many people sit in Knoxville? 110,000. Yeah. You've got about 105,000 in Austin since they've redone the stadium, and of course A&M. They always have to be try to outdo Texas. And so I heard the attendance at the Alabama game the other day was 108,000. And so, it's just an arms race going on right now. And I'm sure that there's going to be some more stadium renovations going on. Yeah. And I think it's going to be great. But let's go back to what we were talking about with Brent Yarmack. I was pretty hard on him because I really did not like the fact he wasn't at that game. Yeah. But what he's doing in the Big 12 and the folks that he's brought into the Big 12, the Big 12 is going to be just fine. But I tell you, not having Texas and Oklahoma in the Big 12, I don't care how many people you bring into the Big 12, and it becomes the Big 16 or the Big 22 or whatever it is. They are not Texas and Oklahoma. Let's just be right up front and honest about it.
Yeah, and I agree. And Barney in Baytown, Texas. Ken is an elite sports writer. Love hearing his thoughts. You know where Baytown is?
Yeah, of course.
David Hager and I, one of my good friends, we were over here at the farm talking Saturday. We took a road trip out there about 9 years ago. Went in through Shreveport, San Augustine, Texas, which is the oldest city in the state of Texas. I got some clients out there. Mm-hmm. Great people. Drove down to Baytown, spent the night, stayed at the hotel. I went to the front desk and I said, hey, where is the best? Because I knew how close we were to, Louisiana and the I-10 corridor. So where's the best place to get some authentic Cajun cooking? Said, I'm going to tell you straight up. Go across the causeway where all the refineries are. Deer Park, Texas. Mm-hmm. Went to this place and it was just a shack, the food shack. Gidry's in Deer Park, Texas. Mm-hmm. Ordered up the boudin balls and the gator bites. I'm going to tell you right now, that's a Green Mile meal, a GMM. If you're walking the Green Mile, you take your pick. Guillotine, the hanging, noose, the electric chair, whatever. That's one of those meals. It was so good. And I said, hey, can I go tell the chef how good it was? I wonder how far south the I-10 he lives. He might live out in the Gulf. He said, sure, go back in here. And I met the guy. And he said, I talked to him. They said, he said he's from Quito, Ecuador. I said, ¿Cuántos años hace que vive en los Estados Unidos, señor? He said, 10 años. I said, ¿Te gusta? Sí. I said, bienvenidos Los Estados Unidos. Incredible. He was, from Ecuador. It was the best Cajun cooking I've ever had. Now, Blake Kleinpeter and Smith Tanner, two of our members from Lake Charles, probably are like going, Brown, we're going to come cook something so good. See, that's what you do is you get them all fired up, and then they try to out-cook each other, like story toppers. But, Ken, I love that. Seamus, you know how to spell Seamus. That's Seamus. That's the Irish, the Gaelic pronunciation. Boomer Sooner, SEC better get ready. But this rivalry, you've been around Brett Yormark. Bring him on the show anytime. Bob Bowlesby. I respect these people, and I know the position you're in. What are they like when you're talking to them? Because you wouldn't say anything on this show you wouldn't say to their face anyway.
Not at all.
And that's what I know about you. I've studied and I've seen you. I've watched how you interact with other people. That's a credit. That's a double thumbs up. If I had a third one, I'd give it to you.
Well, no, and I appreciate you saying that, because you're right. I am a straight up, right down the middle reporter. I take pride in that. And, I wouldn't say anything. I'll say anything on the show, and I'll say it straight to their face. And I tell you, Bob Bowlesby saved the Big 12 is what Bob Bowlesby did. Yeah. And, but those guys are, and Bob Bowlesby was a great commissioner. He wasn't as, Brent Yormark is from New York. He's a New Yorker. Okay. And, so he's brash. He's a big talker. And I wondered how he was going to fit in down here when he first got here. He's fit in just fine. And he's made a lot of things happen. Bowlesby was more of a quiet guy, but he got things done behind the scenes. Yeah. And Bowlesby was the guy that, before he left, he made sure that the Big 12 house was in order before it wound up like the Pac-12, which is, going to be the Pac-2 unless they fix it, here next year. So I have a great amount of respect for both those guys. I've just been, and I would ask him to it, and I would ask him to his face if he was sitting here in my Jeep Wrangler with me right now. Say, Brent, why have you been so ugly since that Big 12 media days when you said you were going to celebrate Texas and OU? Why is your tune changed? Why did you go up to Lubbock the very next week? Because the last Big 12 regular season game is going to be Texas and Texas Tech the day after Thanksgiving. And you went up to Lubbock a few weeks later there in August and said, I hope you told the Lubbock Chamber of Commerce and the Texas Tech Raider Club and all those folks said, I hope you guys take care of business against Texas on that day. Now, why are you saying all that? And I would ask him that to his face. And you know what? That's a legitimate reporter's question. Absolutely. And that's what it is. So, but yeah, I had a great relationship with Bob Bowlesby, and I hope he's enjoying his grandchildren, because I asked him what he was going to be doing, and he said, "Man, I'm going to kick back and enjoy my kids and enjoy my grandchildren." And but I bet he's still involved out there somewhere. It's tough to get a man like him. To get away from the game, because he's so good. And we need to get our good buddy Bill Hancock back on here pretty soon when they announce the CFP rankings, because we need to get our he promised we were going to do a barbecue competition, and we need to get that set up.
I really want to do it. And Ken, I know I won't keep you too long. Doug Dean, Ken Capps is on Football Writers Association of America. He 45th straight Red River rivalry. Doug, another great writer. Both of y'all, I'm going to tell you something. I get a little wound up, get a little coffee in me, cool air. I'm thinking it's hunting right now. But both of y'all I love to hear your thoughts. And, this is the mild-mannered reporter, Ken Capps, dropping his daughter off at the carpool at school. He pulls over to the side of the road to be on sidelines. Both of y'all, you can't, I love it. Doug Dean, jump in here with us. We've been talking about our newest member of the family. It's getting closer. What I saw Saturday, can't get here soon enough, Doug.
Ken, good morning. You're sounding great there. And I love the classy take you have about that great, really great Oklahoma-Texas game Saturday. And I'll tell you, there's a saying among Auburn people that if you follow the program and it's roller coaster ride, what I call a way too big a standard deviation. We can be 15-0 in 2010 and 3-9 in 2012. But there's an acronym called JABA, J-A-B-A, and it's just Auburn being Auburn. And that can be good, that can be bad. But it's very JABA that you think that you've got at least maybe a winnable game when you're facing Texas or Oklahoma in recent years, because the narrative, right, was that they're going to have to grow up and learn how to play fierce defensive front football. And now all of a sudden, a year before they're going to show up, they're doing exactly that. So thanks a lot, Jabba Gods.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And, I think, but here's what I said, because somebody was asking me, after Texas beat Alabama, somebody was asking me the difference between Texas and Alabama. And I said, well, here's the way I see it. Alabama and Alabama proved it again on Saturday. Alabama, everybody was thinking, oh my gosh, this is going to be A&M's time to shine. They're going to knock off Alabama and Kyle Field, and they're just going to send the Crimson Tide and Saban just right to the bottom of the ocean, to Davy Jones' locker, for Pete's sake. And Alabama proves it again. They win the games they're supposed to win. And that's still Texas is weakest spot. As I've been following Texas, full disclosure, I went to Texas. I've been around the program a long time. Texas continues to stub its toe and will lose games that it's supposed to win. I don't know. I looked at the schedule. You look at both Texas and Oklahoma's schedule the rest of the way, and both of them should win out and get to the Big 12 championship game. But, look at Oklahoma. They can stub their toe against Iowa State. Texas can stub their toe. Texas still could have won that game on Saturday, but they didn't. And until both Texas and Oklahoma can get to be those schools again, like Alabama, that don't lose to schools that they're supposed to beat, then they are not going to be elite like Alabama.
Well, great take. And I said to Rob on a recent show, and by the way, Rob, I invited the great Duff on here, but he was a coward. He didn't want to come take on an Auburn man with it being I'm just kidding, Duff. Can't wait to with Duffy this Saturday in Baton Rouge. That's going to be a blast. And I will be gently weeping that day, because it's the last of Auburn LSU for a little while at least. But, to Ken's point, and just looking at the college football, contenders at large, I've been saying, and I might have to adjust my comment after Georgia's performance against Kentucky, but it didn't look to my eyes like there was a truly dominant team, really almost every one of the top 8 or 10 contenders, with the possible exception so far of Michigan, maybe Georgia now. They've really found some offense, and they were always going to play stout defense. But I think Alabama, after such a miserable feeling their fan base had following that Texas win, and I think what was disturbing Bama fans more than losing was that Milroe looked like it was lost trying to see the field and throw the ball. So what do? Saban he just keeps grinding, and his plan in the offseason was to go back to a really physical ground and pound attack. And I always thought that if they didn't go back to Milroe, that was going to work against doing that philosophy. That kid is a poor man's Cam Newton, Rob. And he's just big and physical, and now he's starting to throw the ball well. So, yeah. But even Alabama's fought, and I think in the oddest of ways, if I'm Alabama, the team that worries me some because they're so explosive offensively is LSU. Now, LSU after beating Alabama would have to be 48-45, but that can happen in college football. And by the way, Ken, I wouldn't be down on Texas. They're in perfect position if they just keep winning.
No, I mean, I totally agree with you, Doug. And but again, they cannot stub their toe. I mean, both. I mean, Oklahoma has, look, strength of schedule going forward. Oklahoma definitely has the tougher schedule going forward. But if you look at the Big 12, other than Texas and Oklahoma, I think it's very ironic. In the last year, they're in the Big 12. Texas and Oklahoma are the dominant teams, and then it's everybody else. I mean, for God's sakes, for Iowa State to just take apart TCU Saturday night, I mean, I didn't see that one coming for sure. And of course, it didn't help that Chandler Morris got knocked out of the game either. But still, I mean, the Big 12 is really, really weak this year. Texas Tech was talking a very big game, and Joey McGuire saying, I was going to say Joey McGuire saying, all roads lead through Lubbock. Well, there's no road, there's no road going through Lubbock right now. They're not very good this year either. And so but again, Texas can stub its toe. Think about a couple of weeks ago, everybody was saying, Lane Kiffin in Mississippi, Ole Miss, I should say, I don't want to get Yancey on me. Ole Miss could take down Alabama. Did they? No, because Alabama is still Alabama. And despite when they have a problem or two, champagne problems they've got over there in Tuscaloosa, Saban did just fine. And I looked at and then I came home from the Cotton Bowl and sat down and watched that whole A&M game. Milroe is a whole different guy than he was against Texas. Would you agree?
Oh, no question, Rob.
No, I absolutely agree with you. And the number of people that were thinking, because it's in College Station, it didn't matter. Alabama, I like what the guy in Utah, Alabama's comment. They're a retro team. 15, 16, right. 17. They really are. If y'all both, everybody hold, we're going to take a quick commercial break. Ken, if you can stay, great. I know, Doug, I've got a lot of questions on this Auburn LSU game coming in, but I want to hear Doug wax eloquently and then bounce it around here. When you got orators like we have on here right now, you got to let them roll. And we're going to be right back for more of it.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am Ari Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.
Rob Brown back here with you. Doug, let's talk about that Auburn LSU game. I'm going to try to, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to come down to Baton Rouge and meet up with y'all or not. I'm hoping I can get away. It's starting to crash with preparation for duck season, which is getting here real fast. But Doug, let's hear about it, because there is a path to victory for both teams.
To be candid with you, for a bunch of reasons, not the least of which is a nighttime Death Valley environment. I'd be lying to say I felt uber confident about this rebuilding Auburn team. You certainly like what you saw. You like the fight you saw against the number one team in the nation, Georgia. holding them to 27 when they've got, in my opinion, the best player in all of college football in Brock Bowers. If you were eligible to vote for a non-quarterback for the Heisman Trophy, I say tongue in cheek. Quietly, I will say LSU's a 13-point favorite at home. That might be, I think you'll see more wagerers that know what they're talking about saying, I'm just not going to play this one, or they may play the over or the under, something like that. Auburn has quietly been sitting in Lee County with nobody talking about them for a week. Hopefully the trainers and physicians getting the walking wounded ready to go 100%, because you're going to need it in Baton Rouge. If you're Auburn and you've struggled to find offense, then at least based statistically, I'm not trying to make Duffy or any of my good LSU friends mad, but it would look on paper like the way to get well offensively, frankly, is to play LSU's defense. I mean, they won big. They in the most desperate of ways, they got a pick six under a minute to help their fan wagerers cover the 6.5 point spread by 10. They won by 10. But my goodness, LSU, which is not the LSU we're used to seeing, they got rung up for 527 yards, 411 of which was by air. The problem for Auburn is we have shown a pulse on the ground, but so far not so much through the air. So what we're going to see pretty early in the game is Hugh Freeze of necessity and Philip Montgomery. Are they going to say, look, I know LSU's easier to move the ball on through the air, but our strength is a power rushing attack, maybe run some tempo. It's going to be, I think, a 6 p.m. night game, and with a high of 73, which is awesome in Baton Rouge. I'm used to going there with the risk of heat stroke in September. But it's dangerous there at times. And I love that game. I think it's 2017, where the LSU sideline had these air conditioners, and they were not on the sunny side. The visiting team, no air conditioners, and they were it was sweltering heat. So I like LSU in this one. If Jaden Daniels, who got his ribs banged up, if he's got to wear a flak jacket, or he's a little, he will certainly play. He finished the game and played well against Mizzou, but he's better running the ball if his ribs are down. So what Ron Roberts will do, and I think has to do, is we're going to force LSU into 3rd and longs if we're good enough to do that. And you won't do it very often. But for Auburn to win, you need to see Auburn find a way, doesn't matter how you do it, find a way to break the 31-point mark. And I think with this Auburn defense, they will have a chance if they can pull that off. I don't think LSU will continue to score in the high 40s and 50s against this Auburn defense. If they do, it's time for me to just tip my hat to them.
Yeah, and what I think the market change, Ken, with Alabama talking about their offense, they're a retro team. They really are. Was after Jalen Hurts was replaced by Tua, they went from averaging about 31 points a game to 45. So if you were going to beat them in 2019, 2020, those years, you better score more than 45. And they lost those 2 games in 2019. They lost at home 46-43 to LSU, and at Auburn 48-45. Ken.
Hey, Rob, before Ken gives his take on LSU, because I think Texas fans follow LSU pretty closely over the years. How about it, Rob? If you're not feeling 30 years old anymore, try being Pete Jenkins, the great Pete Jenkins, at 82 years old. That defensive line veteran who had a three-year or so stint under Bowden at Auburn. He's been a LSU fan favorite for decades, it seems. But 82 years old, Brian Kelly brings him in as a defensive analyst, and he's basically coaching the D line right now. And that's sort of advantage LSU, because he knows a lot of football.
Doug, I don't know if it was you that wrote about him recently, or Philip Marshall. Philip Marshall had some things to say in Auburn Undercover, but he is the guru. He's on the Mount Rushmore of defensive line coaches. I love that observation. I got a lot of respect for him. Everywhere he's been, things go well, but it's tough to change who you are halfway in the season, but it's worth a shot.
And I'm sorry, Ken, I want to get you in here, but what if I'm Auburn? LSU's offense feeds on rhythm. What you can do to disrupt that is run the ball. Have ball hogging drives if you can, if you're good enough. You got to mix some throws in there. And I think because of the nature of this game and the fact that LSU has struggled to tackle well this year, which again, I'm not used to saying that over the years at all. They're usually one of the best tackling, toughest defenses.
Mm-hmm.
By Saturday night, they will look like the 1985 Bears. Rob, you know how that goes. Speaking of Java.
Yeah.
But so I think you got to go a little heavier. Robbie Ashford in this game, get him in there. If he can catch them out of position, in conflict with that read option, I think you can get some chunk yardage on the ground with Robbie, and then pick your spots to try to go deep vertical and see if LSU is good enough to cover. You can.
I totally agree with you, Doug, and that's going to be a hell of a game. And I wanted to mention a couple of things here before I jump off, because I've been thinking about it as you've been talking, and Rob and I talked about it on Friday when we were getting all hyped up for Texas and Oklahoma. Somebody gave me a great line, and I'm so thrilled that I'm starting to get messages and things like that from all these great SEC fans, and I'm really looking forward to interacting with them more. As Texas and Oklahoma get over there. But somebody told me on Friday, sent me a private message on Facebook. They go, look at it this way, Ken. When you get to the SEC, every game is Texas OU weekend, and I thought that was just such a great way to look at moving over to the SEC. And then one other thing that's going to be really fun when Texas and Oklahoma get over there is the star power that they're going to bring. One quarter that we had they showed on the big screen at the Cotton Bowl on Saturday, they had Matthew McConaughey, who's the minister of culture at Texas. They had him standing by Bevo, and they had him going hook 'em horns. And of course, half the stadium, the stadium's cut right down the middle, 50-50, and one side orange, one side red. So they had Matthew McConaughey up there with Bevo doing hook 'em horns. And then a few minutes later, they had Baker Mayfield doing upside down horns. And of course, everybody's going crazy on the Oklahoma side. And, I turned to my friend Joe, the guy who has gone to all those games with me for all these 40 plus years. And I said, the only thing we're missing here is Taylor Swift. Maybe we can get Taylor Swift to, do like they do at the Army Navy game. Maybe she can wear orange for the first half of the game, and then wear red for the other half of the game when they come to the SEC, because the star power that was on display at the Cotton Bowl, and I'm sure y'all have that in the SEC too, but the star power that was on display on Saturday was amazing, and it'll be really fun to bring that over to the SEC next year. What do you think, Doug?
Oh, it's going to be spectacular. I've already got my game day sign ready for whenever Texas finally comes to Jordan-Hare Stadium. It'll read something like, hide your wives, hide your daughters, McConaughey is in town.
Oh, yeah. Well, hey, when I lived in Nashville, way back in the day, I went to when Texas played Auburn in 1980. Was it 84 or 85? And
83, they played in Auburn, 83 and 87. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So 83, I drove down from Nashville to Auburn to watch that game, and Texas won that game. And Fred Akers was the coach. Yeah. And, Bo Jackson was playing for Auburn. And, man, I remember that so well. And, I'm really looking forward to those games. And it's so great to see you guys today. And Rob, thanks for letting me come on and talk about Texas OU and recap it a little bit. And like I said, I hope they're partying hard up in Norman today with their day off from school.
I think we could all learn a lesson about good sportsmanship, if anything, from you, but also great writing. Ken, I'm going to talk to you after the show. Got an idea for something for you, but thanks for taking time. You're a great dad, great sports writer, and you love your team, but you're objective and you're a true pro. I learn a lot every time you're on, like I do when Doug's on, about not getting too jacked up or too down. Got to be in that happy medium. Okay. Take care. All right, Doug.
It's just a game.
It is just a it's just a game. And
Yeah.
Doug, you got to come hunting with us this year. We're sitting
I-
out there at the bonfire Saturday night going, and we go, why don't you get those guys to come up here? Duffy says he's coming up mid-November maybe, but you got to come up here and hunt.
Well, and it was over the years, but this will be the year I pull the trigger on it. If you guys, do y'all ever duck hunt on weekdays?
Yes, sir.
So you may have,
You can do it before the office opens.
you can be in the duck blind and limit out before Sidelines Live comes on.
Oh, absolutely. And you can we're 30 minutes from downtown Memphis. So if you work downtown, literally 30 minutes, you're in downtown. That's the beauty of where we are. And 1.2 million people right there.
What I'll do, and I'll bring the stakes, but I want to come and arrive on a, maybe like a Wednesday afternoon or a Thursday afternoon, stay a couple of days and be able to check off the list. I have never duck hunted. I've hunted every other conceivable kind of hunting, but never, you know why? I've always been scared to take up duck hunting because I know I'll like it.
See, you're like me with golf. I
Yeah.
grew up playing tennis and swimming. That's all I did. And when I do play golf, they always put me with the really good golfers, but it's an addictive sport. Doug, I like this. Tate in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yep.
What's Auburn going to need to do in order to have a chance Saturday night? I like Joe in Pelham, Alabama. Doug is like a therapist when he breaks down the games and how they can be won. I agree with that. Bob Newhart here. But let's talk about Tate in Charlotte, Auburn's path to victory.
Yeah, and then thank you for the kind remarks, Joe and Pelham. The next round is on me if I get to meet you guys. So I think what I'm excited to see, win or lose, Rob, and I think Auburn this is not some invincible LSU team. And by the way, I should say in LSU's favor that if you've struggled defensively, the cure for that for LSU is to play Auburn's offense lately. Except the run game. If Auburn has success on the ground, and Hugh and Montgomery have put some things in through the air that simplify it. And I think the thing to do is to scale back who you're going to get the ball to through the air and find those 2 or 3 guys that you really trust. Instead of trying to say, well, we want to distribute the ball to 6 or 7 guys, the ones that are running the wrong routes or not winning 50-50 balls, relegate them to blocking and fewer touches, and go to so the guys that I think that you have to get the ball to through the air, we're still going to be run heavy to have a chance to win, is Rivaldo Fairweather, no doubt about it. He's a money receiver and difficult to cover one-on-one. Jay Fair, and the third and fourth options I think possibly need to be a back getting the ball to backs out of the backfield. And the reason I think that is likely and can be effective is you'll see Auburn do a lot of 2 tight end looks. And if one of those tight ends is Fairweather, you line up with him inside next to the tackle, but then you can split him out and cause LSU some problems with being either outnumbered if we run the ball or having to cover guys like Fairweather one-on-one man coverage. So I think the formula for Auburn is to really frustrate LSU offensively by having long ball hogging drives, win time of possession. If you can steal a possession on up at midfield, a fake punt or going for it on 4th and short, steal a possession, let Jaden Daniels sit on the sideline for long stretches, which frustrates quarterbacks. Yeah. And then I think Roberts he's had 2 weeks to do it. He's got to bring some defensive pressures that Daniels hasn't seen that will confuse him, and they'll simulate a blitz right before the snap and then come out of that and they won't know who's coming. Sometimes it'll be Asante up the middle. Sometimes it'll be bringing a safety up to corner blitz. But I don't think you can sit back and let Daniels have time because he's got too good of receivers, and he's really found himself throwing the ball. And if it's not there, he brings the ball down to run it. God, he's a load to get on the ground. So Auburn's chance is no turnovers. I think you need to cause 2 LSU turnovers. If one and possibly if you can get a defensive score off Daniels, then it's a ball game. But right now, I don't honestly I don't dispute the 13-point line with LSU at home, feeling very good about themselves, unless Pat Dye was right. You can only get a team emotionally really up a few times a year. Well, Saturday, LSU was really up going to Mizzou and winning that. You don't think of Missouri that way, but they were undefeated, and a lot of people thought Mizzou would win. So I think you're going to see a very competitive game. I'm anxious to see what Hugh does with a week to prepare, a week off strategically. What new looks will we see? And that's, to me, the inside story in this game Saturday.
Yeah, and look, I want to bring in Franz Beard with us right now, and we got the world's one of the world's most interesting men on here. And I will say this is going to be a hell of a game. Let me do this real quick at the top of the hour break. I want to say something about a couple of our sponsors. We're going to get right back into this, Doug. Red River Ford Toyota, Wynne, Arkansas, 45 minutes from Memphis. Get over there today. Happy Columbus Day, by the way, Doug. Happy Columbus Day. 531 years ago, Christopher Columbus discovered America after America's Vespucius. Yeah, sailed the ocean blue. The Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria. I learned that in history back when they taught history in school. Just want to say that. Happy Columbus Day, everybody. Parades, juggling, dancing bears. It's just a great day. But Red River Ford Toyota, Wynne, Arkansas. Great people over there, 45 minutes from Memphis. They deliver anywhere. If you're on Highway 64 going back and forth to Heber Springs, up in the lakes, it's a half mile south of Highway 64 in Wynne by the Walmart. They're open Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Service department open on Saturdays, 7 a.m. to 12:30. Rusty Howard, Greg Smith, Justin Wynn, the general manager. John Dobbs Jr., I've known John since I was a little kid. His family, the Dobbs family, been in the car and truck business a long time. And the Ward family, they're the Red River Auto Group. These are great people. You don't talk about, we'll give you a great deal if you come over. They always are fair with you. They're great people to work with. They deliver anywhere. Cars, trucks, SUVs, Red River Ford Toyota. Check them out, redriverfordtoyota.com.
Rob,
and also Corona Trans. Yeah, go ahead, Doug.
I'm sorry. I've got a hard stop. I got to get to a meeting. Wish I could stay.
All right. Well, look, tell us this. Give us, you're going to be back on later during the week. Just tell me your availability. Just text me and just come in. You're like Mark Levin on Hannity. You know, you're the great one. That's the new nickname for you, the great one.
Goodness, I wish I could stick around, but I'll catch the archive of your show later, France. See if Duffy and I can come on together, Rob, and jostle a little with each other. So I've
the crew
ready for this game. And
it's
about
done.
And he's invited me and my buds to tailgate LSU style in Death Valley. That'll be a lot of fun this Saturday. You guys have a great day.
You do too.
Have
Take
fun,
care.
Doug.
Happy Columbus Day. All right, friends. Again, happy Columbus Day. In 1492, Columbus landed over here. The Nina.
Why don't we
Pinta,
have
the
Leif
Santa Maria.
Erikson Day?
Yeah, yes. The Vikings came. Actually, the Vikings, America's Vespucius. Then the American Indians came over here 35,000 years ago across the Bering Strait. I learned that back when
They have found Viking relics in Minnesota.
Yeah, you're right.
What does that tell us?
Yeah. You know what, Franz? That is, you ever watch, what's the name of that show on Netflix, The Lost Kingdom?
Yeah,
about the Vikings, Franz? Fascinating. I mean, it is absolutely fascinating when you start studying that history. Franz, man, what a weekend. I mean, it's kind of like, again, trying to figure out taking a drink of water from Niagara Falls. So many great games. There's only so many games you can watch at one time with the multi-screen and everything. But first of all, the Gators got to win. I don't give a damn who you're playing. It's better to win than it is to lose. What were the takeaways? What'd you see different after what they did up there in Lexington or didn't do the week before?
Well, they got Eugene Wilson III, also known as Trey. Go figure that, the third and Trey. Okay, yes, I see the correlation, don't you? I think most people will. Anyway, Trey Wilson is in the offense again. And I've been saying for the last 3 or 4 weeks, they've got to get the tight end in the middle of the field. Well, guess what happened Saturday? Trey Wilson is healthy for the first time. He caught 8 passes in the first half of, 6 passes in the first half of the game of the Tennessee game, and was very effective at making that offense difficult for Tennessee to defend. And he's been hurt since he had a shoulder problem. First time in 10 quarters, he's back, and that's on Saturday. And he catches 8 passes for 64 yards, gets a touchdown. They call it a pass. He's running a jet sweep, and because the ball is flipped in the air forward, that constitutes a forward pass in the NCAA. And anyway, he catches it, zoop, 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 and it's a 19-yard touchdown. And this is a guy that adds that horizontal dynamic. You put a tight end in the middle of the field, which has been open, and now all of a sudden you can't play 8 in the box, which is what people have been doing to stop Florida. Additionally, now that you can't play 8 in the box, you got the vertical route with Ricky Pearsall. Florida's offense for the first time looked really, really complete. First time all season, I felt this was a complete offense. Graham Mertz, 30 for 36 passing. He's only hitting 79.5% for the season. And I know all week long there's a guy over at Saturday Down South that tends to rank, Mertz like 38th out of 14 quarterbacks in the SEC and stuff like that. Johnny in Brookhaven used to be our big rival when I was living in Macomb. Okay.
That's right. It isn't far from it, is it?
It's about 18 miles difference between the two of them. But, oh, my gosh. What was it? Wallace? I think it was Randy Wallace and Cam. I can't think of his name. Cam Massengill. Boy, we had great games with them. We always, the Brookhaven Panthers and the Macomb Tigers. That's what it was. Brookhaven is the home of Lance Allworth, by the way. The great Bambi. Lance Allworth, Bambi. And for anybody who never saw him play, as great a wide receiver as has ever existed. Lance Allworth, Paul Warfield, Charlie Taylor, those guys, Otis Taylor. Those guys are like on, they're if you have a Mount Rushmore of wide receivers, and I'm not taking anything away from Jerry Rice, but those guys would be on it, not Jerry Rice. Anyway, Florida's offense evolved, and let me get back to it. And we've been waiting for it because now, everybody's been bunching, Florida's talking about Florida. Too many tight formations and not enough verticality. Vandy took the vertical away with the 3 deep, and they bracketed Pearsall, so he didn't have much of an effect. But that all that did was that made it more, made more passes, passing lanes available for guys like Arliss Boardingham. Not 8 catches, 99 yards. Touchdown, 2 touchdowns, in fact. Eugene Wilson III gets 8 catches in the middle of the field. The running game ends up getting 215 yards, wound up with 495 yards all told. So it was a really good game for the Gators, and the kind they needed for momentum going into South Carolina. South Carolina is going to be a very, very difficult game for them because they're going to have to face Spencer Rattler, and Spencer Rattler is a terrific quarterback. I mean, let's not hide the fact that he's playing with a lot of courage, and it takes a lot of courage to play behind that offensive line. And I'll tell you another one who has a lot of courage. That's Jalen Milroe. He's been sacked 26 times this year. People don't realize Alabama, there's only 26, yeah, through 6 games. There's only 2 teams in all of college football whose quarterbacks have been sacked more than Alabama's. You You look at what Alabama did Saturday against the Aggies. They won despite 23 yards rushing total. 23. That's because of all the sack yardage.
Good God Almighty. Bobby in Plant City, Florida. What does Franz think about the Gators' path to bowl eligibility? That shouldn't even be a question. Yeah. Okay.
I like it right now. I think the Gators will beat South Carolina. South Carolina is only a 2-point favorite at home and Willie Bryce. I think Florida is going to win that game. I do believe Florida is going to smoke Arkansas here. I think Arkansas is in a downward spiral now, and I don't see them getting out of it right now. They can't block. They can't run. KJ Jefferson, for all his athleticism, is not looking like an SEC quarterback. Very indecisive. Very. I think KJ Jefferson has the same problem that our Anthony Richardson had last year. He feels like it's up to him to win the game, and when quarterbacks. Some quarterbacks can do that. Dan Marino could take it on him to say, I'm going to win this game. We're not going to lose. I'm not going to let us lose. Joe Montana could do that. Terry Bradshaw was terrific at doing that. Roger Staubach could do it. I'm looking back at quarterbacks that you just knew when they stepped on the field, games on the line, big game, whatever, they were not going to let their team lose. And I think some quarterbacks get this notion, I've got to do it. And they don't have the command of the game yet. They don't have the command of the locker room. They don't have the command of the team, etc., to make it happen. I think that's a problem with a lot of quarterbacks. And I think they think that, okay, I'm the stud of the team. I'm the guy that handles the ball every time. It is up to me. It's up to you to play well. It's not up to you to win the game. And I think I'll equate this to Florida. This is what Florida got in Graham Mertz. They got a guy that doesn't make mistakes.
Yeah.
He's completed 80% of his passes. He's thrown 2 interceptions, both of them tipped balls. He has not thrown an interception where it was a completion to the other team. He doesn't fumble. He doesn't, he made a mistake. He had an intentional grounding call the other day, and he comes into the press room. He says, I've been playing football long enough to know you got to get the ball past the line of scrimmage. And he didn't do it. And he owned it. And this is why teammates love him, is because he knows, he'll tell them, I'm only as good as you are. I'm not here to win the game. And I think this is what KJ's got to do. So I think that's a win for Florida. I think Florida is capable of beating Missouri. I realize Missouri is kind of flying high right now. Everybody loves Mizzou, and I understand why they are. But the season is still early. We're only 6 games into it, and Missouri still has games to go against some really good teams. I mean, let's face it, Missouri still hasn't played. They played LSU. They got to play Kentucky. Then they get South Carolina, which won't be easy after playing Kentucky. Then they get Georgia, Tennessee, Florida, and Arkansas to close it out. Not an easy schedule. Missouri right now is 5-1. I have a feeling Missouri is going to be like a 6-6, 7-5 team when it's all said and done.
Yeah, I had LSU to win. We had Scott Rabelais on, Rabalais, and
I know him.
Audrey, he's a fantastic. And just another great. The sports writers are just the best, and it's so funny. Audrey, I got to send the Rebelsis guy the link. I'm like, it's Rabelais. Of course, Smith Tanner and Blake Kleinpeter, 2 of the members of the hunting club from Lake Charles. Oh, I know a lot of Rabelais down there. I'm like, I like Barnabas Collins. Boy, what a name from the past. I don't know if that's his real name. Poplarville, Mississippi. Right. I used to have a client down there right on the line almost with Louisiana. love hearing friends talk about South Mississippi. I do.
Oh heavens! I could tell you a couple stories about South Mississippi back in the day when Mississippi was a dry state, and we had a gang down out of Magnolia, 5 miles south of Macomb, and halfway in between is Fernwood, where the Fernwood Country Club was. But there was a gang out of Magnolia. They used to bootleg liquor across the state lines, and oh my gosh, those were the days. And then going over and playing. Here's one for you. I'm on the play. It's junior high basketball. We go over to Natchez and play Morgantown, which has Natchez. You have Natchez Junior High, and you have Morgantown over there. The coach at Morgantown is Richard Williams. Richard Williams, who ends up being the head coach at Mississippi State.
A basketball coach. Yes.
Yeah, that's it. When I'm a sophomore in high school, Macomb goes down to play Picayune. Picayune comes out running the Notre Dame box formation that nobody knows what to do with because it hadn't been run in 30 years. But guess who is the defensive coordinator for Picayune? A guy named Jimmy Johnson.
God.
So
Jimmy Johnson, yeah.
So yeah, there are some stories to be told about living in South Mississippi, and I look back at it and I thought we were being exiled. We were living in Gainesville, Florida. We get moved back to, I've got it made. I'm Sarge. Oh my gosh. Sarge Squires, the concessions manager at the University of Florida. I'm his guy. He knows he can count on me. I football games, I'm selling Cokes. I'm making money. I'm watching, and I got a client. I got clients. I mean, I had clients. I'm 13 years old. I got clients. I got a group of lawyers from Jacksonville. They want the ice. They don't want the Coke. And they say, "You're young. You can drink the Coke." So I'm there down in a tray of Cokes, giving them the ice. And they say, "Come back at the end of the second quarter. Come back at halftime. Come back at the end of the third quarter." I made all my money off those guys that watched the football game and peed the rest of the time. So those were good days. Anyway, that has nothing to do with football today, but that Macomb is where I first started learning how to be a sports writer.
No, I mean, there's Macomb, there's Brookhaven. That's where Bernie Evers was from. Nobody ever understood what WorldCom did until they took him away to prison. In Poplarville, that whole area.
Columbia.
Yeah, Columbia. I had a client from Columbia.
Home of Walter Payton.
God. Wow. He used to run the levees on the dams at Sardis, Enid, and Grenada uphill to build strength. Sweetness. Yeah. Now, lost him way too early at 47 years of age. Just Mississippi per capita has produced more football players that played, college and in the NFL than any state in America.
Mississippi and followed by Louisiana.
Yeah, exactly. And the three greatest cities in America per capita for producing pro football players are Mobile, Alabama, the port city, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, busted down in Baton Rouge. Wasn't that a great song by Janis Joplin? And the third one is, you know what it is? Detroit City.
Well, I'll tell you per capita, it's Belglade, Florida.
All right. Did you see this? Wait a minute. I got one for you. Hey, thank you to all of our listeners, viewers, and everything. And subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/@sidelines_live. But I love this one. Otis in Clewiston, Florida. I can't believe it. This was like Gators need to recruit the muck.
Absolutely.
And would you get the toughest people in the state of Florida? There's nobody wearing a navy blazer with a crest on there with a captain's hat like Thurston Howell III coming out of the muck, is there?
No. Belglade,
love that.
Pahokee, Clewiston, Moorhaven. You know, you get these kids that grow up in tough circumstances, and football. You know, people. This is one of the things why I get so angry with the NCAA is the NCAA doesn't take into account kids' circumstances. They never have. And this is why I say, you know, let any kid, if the school is willing to let the kid in, let him in. But if he's come under dubious academic circumstances, make him spend a year in going to class and learn and prove that he is capable of doing college work. You know, it would be so simple because, you know, it says the National Collegiate Athletic Association, and it's supposed to be about lifting kids up. Football has taken more kids out of bad circumstances and turned them into productive human beings, taking them from a life where there would have been nothing like that. They would have grown up following, you know, in those tough circumstances and continued in them their whole lives. But they go get a college education, and what happens with them then? They come back and help other kids, etc., like that. And there is nothing in this world like football for doing it. 85 scholarships. People don't forget about this. 85 scholarships. You multiply that 85 scholarship kids on scholarship times 133. That's just your Division I football players. You know, you're talking about right there 10,000 kids. 10,000 kids. Not all of them are from bad circumstances, but
correct.
A good number of them are. Then you got Division I AA. Another 100 kids. Multiply that times 63. Okay, we're up at 16,000 kids. Then you got Division II, 43 or 45 scholarships. Is it? Okay, multiply that times 150, 200. You know, you're talking 20,000 kids that are affected by football. 20,000 kids getting an education. 20,000 kids who have an opportunity because what is it? 2%, 1% of the kids get to go on to play professional football. So what do the rest of them do? The rest of them have to go out there and get a job and pay taxes and do stuff and be productive members of the community. Look at all of the kids that are now highly successful in business. They're lawyers, etc. Brandon Seiler, you know, a kid who on Swamp Kings admits, he says, I was from Pine Hills. You know what the nickname of Pine Hills is in Orlando? Crime Hills. It's one of the you come out of Crime Hills, you are one tough son of a gun.
Well, like Liberty City. Think about that. I mean,
Lawrence Wright comes out of Liberty City, and look what he's done. He's back in Liberty City, and he's got an apprentice school. He has a construction company. He has an apprentice school. You want to learn a trade? You want to learn how to lay bricks? You want to learn how to be a carpenter? You want to learn how to be an electrician? He'll put you in his apprentice school, and guess what? You know what happens when you get through your apprentice school? You're working for Lawrence Wright, who's got a hell of a construction company going.
Yeah. Well,
and this is all because of what football does. And
Yeah.
I wish people could understand that. I hear people say, well, they get a scholarship, they should be really happy. Well, yeah, a scholarship is nice, but guess what? You're also asking a kid to come spend 4 years sacrificing his body.
Yeah.
Do you know what the average age of a guy that spends 3 years in the NFL? You know what his average age is when he dies?
Probably mid-50s.
57.
God almighty. Say that again.
57. You spend 3 years playing in the NFL. Your lifespan on the average is 57 years. You think about, you remember Wilbur Marshall, don't you? One of the greatest players.
Astronaut High School, Titusville, Florida.
One of the greatest college football players ever.
Correct.
You know, 2-time National Defensive Player of the Year. Sean Salisbury still hears the footsteps and thinks Lawrence Taylor, not Lawrence Taylor, but thinks Wilbur Marshall is coming from behind him. I say Lawrence Taylor because Wilbur Marshall is the closest thing in college to what Lawrence Taylor was. You know, they both just unbelievable athletes. Wilbur Marshall can barely walk anymore. The number of injuries he suffered in 12 years in the NFL is just unbelievable. And he's not untypical of the guy that spends a lot of time in the NFL. Many guys. I talked to Shane Matthews, and Shane tells you, he's 13 years in the NFL. He says, I carried that clipboard happily.
Yeah, I know. And Shane Matthews, you're right. He's one of the smartest football minds. I mean, I watch him on the Buddy Martin show, catch it Monday, sometimes 6 days a week now. But, Monday through Friday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, Franz will be on there, Ben Troop, Shane Matthews, Allie Peak Wilbur. Got a great crew down there. But you're right. I mean, it's awful when I start counting the number of people I know of, some I know that played college or pro football that have CTE. So when people talk about making, these targeting calls, the equipment, the safety, not making the game less physical, but playing smarter. I'm seeing the message has gotten through, I believe, big time on the targeting calls.
Yeah.
Because we have Dr. James Andrews Orthopedic. I think, one of the best orthopedic surgeons in the world. He talks about it. I've got another one that's going to be joining us soon from Mississippi. Young orthopedic surgeon I've known 20 years. We're going to be really getting into hearing from the doctors, not just made up stuff, but friends, the depth of knowledge between your ears. It's amazing. But that's a shitty statistic to hear. I hate it. And not blaming you, but it's saying, I think people need to put that in perspective. When you're cheering these guys on, think about the sacrifice. You're right. What they're leaving behind. We got to increase that life expectancy for everybody, live a healthy life. But football, you pay a hell of a price when you
Greg Sankey told me, talking about targeting there. He said, we can do all that we want to do, but he says your brain, which is inside your cranium, doesn't know the difference.
Yeah.
You think about that for a second. I let that sink in because I've said it 100 times on this show already. But Greg said, I don't care what room he's in. Greg Sankey's the smartest guy in the room. Period. The smartest guy. Really, college athletics. There's a reason why he is the top guy in all of college athletics. I think he's the most powerful man in sports. Period. And that includes Roger Goodell, the idiot who runs the NBA, and I can't
NFL,
Manfred Mann or whatever his name is,
Yoda,
man of the Earth Band who runs the Major League Baseball. I give Major League Baseball credit. Major League Baseball has made the game more fun, and they pack stadiums. Either playoffs are going to be fun. You think about this. All the teams that, the Orioles may not make it out. The Braves are down a game. All the teams that we thought going into the playoffs that were going to have a great time are teetering on the verge. We could end up with the Houston Disastros, in the championship with the Phillies. Wouldn't that? Don't you know that they would love that with the networks if that happened? Anyway, back to football. Let's talk a little football. I get sometimes I get sidetracked, and when I do, just kind of hold up.
I do it. Frank.
Hold up a white flag. I surrender, and
I do it to you, friends. You saw the one here. Now think about this. You have to know Florida geography, and you do. Gilligan in Captiva Island, Florida. You know where that place is, what it's known for. All high school kids need to spend a week here. I don't know if you want to spend a day there. I'm just going to say, but you talk about the muck, Clewiston, Belle Glade, mosquitoes down there the size of Titleist golf balls. You know what? You recruit tough people, and if they're really good athletes and they're tough and they weren't born on third base and thought they hit a triple, you can win a lot of games with them. Let's do this. Let me take a quick break. Wes Moore, ESPN 103.7 The Buzz in the capital city of Little Rock, which is a beautiful city. The Miracle on Markham Street. I love Little Rock, the capital of Arkansas. We're going to be right back talking with Wes Moore, Franz Beard from GatorVetMedia.com and the Buddy Martin Show after we take a quick commercial break. Happy Columbus Day, everybody. We'll be right back.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am Ari Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.
All right, Rob Brown, let's bring in Wes Moore. And Wes, we got to get a picture of you, Wes, to put up here. You being a TV, you know, friends, he is the sports anchor and looks like a movie star. Ought to be on Fox Sports Channel 16 in Little Rock, and does the show on ESPN 103.7 The Buzz, and goes to all the Touchdown Club meetings and does them live from there. He probably works 12, 14 hours a day from Jacksonville, Texas, and also does ESPN Plus games for University of Central Arkansas over in Conway for the Bears. When do you sleep, Wes?
Well, it's funny you said that, because this weekend I went out to Pepperdine to see my daughter. She's a freshman, and it was my first chance to go see her. And we took the red eye from Los Angeles last night and just landed in Little Rock at 8:30. And I didn't sleep a lot on the plane. It was a bad situation and tight quarters, and it didn't treat me well. So I'm going on fumes on this Monday for sure.
Pepperdine, Malibu. I mean, that now you want to talk about a campus, one of the more scenic campuses in all of America is to go to Pepperdine and be right there in Malibu.
Guys, I know that's not why you had me on the show today, but it is the most beautiful place I've ever been. It was just absolutely incredible. I don't know how many times I was walking around that campus and I would just stop and say, wow, I can't believe you get to go to school here every single day and see this every single day. I don't know how many just pictures I took of just buildings overlooking the ocean. It was incredible. It is incredible.
If they ever got smart and gave themselves a football team, don't you know they could recruit? Just bring kids on campus and say, this is what you get to live with every day.
Well, they do great, recruiting baseball, volleyball, beach volleyball. But the problem is I'm out there Saturday, guys, and I'm in my wife's shopping. I'm outside, and I'm in an area where there's a bunch of people. I was the only one watching college football. None of the guys are watching college football. We went to a restaurant Saturday night, and it's that great game between USC. And I tried to talk everybody into going to that game and just walk up and buy a ticket. Nobody at this bar was watching it besides me and another dad. It was incredible, guys. It's just a different life out there. College football. Now, I saw a ton of NFL fans, There are a lot of Cowboys fans, Eagles fans, because they played the Rams last night. I saw a lot of NFL fans, but college football is not a big deal out there.
Do you know what Washington State and UCLA drew attendance wise in the Rose Bowl? Now the Rose Bowl seats right at 100,000 or something like that. They drew 35,000 people. That's it.
I told everybody we could walk up and get some cheap tickets and go see a really good game.
60,000 at the Coliseum to see the Arizona Southern Cal game, and you're right. There's stuff to do, and we talk about California cool, laid back, and everything. Well, that's what it is there. It is a you're so right, but if I'm in Malibu, I'd be thinking to myself, why do I want to go to a football game when I can walk across the street to the beach?
Yeah. There were probably 30,000 people on the beach. I'll tell you that.
See, now you talked about being beautiful. I was watching the sunset over here in Parkin. We were over at the farm last night, watching it set over the rice and bean fields, Crowley's Ridge juxtaposed in the background. I thought that was beautiful, as well as I was up in Hardy about 6 weeks ago, trout fishing on the Spring River. That was beautiful, but you're right. No, Malibu's incredible. Wes, we love having you on here talking about anything because you know your football on all levels, high school, college, and that is a cool perspective because it tells you why those schools are going to the Big Ten or the Big 12 is they want to have more fan engagement. Ronnie in Brinkley, Arkansas, Sam Pittman needs to find the soul of his team. Let's get your take on the Razorbacks because I got a lot of hog friends living in Memphis. We're in Parkin at the Cherry Farm, Cross County, and a lot of people going, what do we got to do to get a break? But let's get your thoughts.
It's pretty simple, guys. It's a line of scrimmage league, and Arkansas is getting whipped on the line of scrimmage. When you can't run the ball, that puts a lot of pressure on your passing game. And I think KJ's feeling the effects of all those sacks. He doesn't look comfortable in the pocket. He's missing some throws. He's missing some receivers. But I can't blame him because he's been hit so many times that's what happens to quarterbacks. And you put pressure on a quarterback, he falters. And look, we saw that with Dart at Ole Miss. He's a good quarterback, but Arkansas started bringing some pressure, and he missed on some throws he should have made. But that's where this Arkansas team is offensively. They can't run the ball, and it's their offense is falling apart. It's hard to watch. It's frustrating to watch. Then you throw in the penalties, and they're moving backwards. You have the special teams blunder where you're getting the ball back, and you got 12 guys on the field. It was, I told a buddy, I said, for me, college football is entertainment. I didn't go to the University of Arkansas. I cover the University of Arkansas, but I can be entertained watching football. There's nothing entertaining about this team right now, and it's mainly because of mistakes and the failure to be able to run the ball. And that's the disappointing thing because, Sam Pittman, this guy knows he wants to run the ball, and they want to get it fixed. But when they can't run the ball, it's almost a head scratcher that they're in this type of a situation. How do they get in a situation where they don't have the guys up front to be able to run the ball?
You raised some really good points there, and the question I would have for you is, I look at Twitter and some of these other places. Is there a feeling that if Arkansas, let's say, tanks the rest of the season, let's say Arkansas finishes 4-8, which I think is possible. As you say, if you can't block anybody, you're going to have real troubles. And let's say they go 4-8. What is the security of Sam? Does he have the job security that he needs to get the team rebuilt?
I think so. I think he gets another year, but you start going 4-8, and the thing right now, at least they're competitive. The
Yeah.
A&M game, they had the ball in the third quarter after a fumble right after the end of the half. Remember, they got the interception, pick six, then they get a fumble. They throw it into the end zone. It looks like it's a touchdown to tie the game, and Armstrong can't bring it in, drops it, gets knocked away, settle for a field goal, and then A&M goes on and wins. So they're not getting, just blown out, humiliated. It's a humiliating feeling because they've lost 4 in a row in the SEC. But I think as long as there's, they're competitive and they're okay. Yeah, obviously he's on the hot seat and has to get it turned around quickly next year. But fans, they're already like, well, next year you're not going to have KJ. So how much better are you going to be? You're going to have to lose 2 of the offensive linemen. Supposedly the 2 best offensive linemen. So it's a bad situation right now. But to answer your question, I think Pittman's okay because his buyout goes down tremendously after the following year.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always been, you got me a little stumped because I'm having to almost change my mind because it's the losses are piling up and you feel like it could. I always felt like, look, this is going to be a tough stretch. We know it's going to be a tough stretch. And I keep reminding myself, we knew this was coming. We knew it was going to be hard during this tough stretch. The BYU game is just becoming more costly, or is that a word? It's costing them more and more and more, losing that game to BYU. But the back end of this schedule, if he can somehow keep this team together, the back end of the schedule is much more manageable, and there's some wins out there. You got the FIU game. You got Auburn. You got Mississippi State. Look, you get Florida the week after their huge game, and Arkansas is coming off of a bye. I think it's a good setup, and you could have an upset there. The Missouri game at the end of the year. I'm not ready to throw in the towel on Pittman in this season. If he can keep them together, there's some wins out there.
We had a former Razorback player on the show with us Saturday morning. Nathan Perotti was a walk-on, played 18, 19, 20, and 21. So 2 years under Chad Morris, 2 years under Sam Pittman. He made a good point. He said, he's close with a lot of these guys on this team. So it's got to keep that locker room together. And he also talked about how NIL has changed. When he got there, it wasn't legal. Now, when he left after the 21 season, that was the first year with it. And it's a good question that came in here. Let me find this question from one of the This is Scott in Hot Springs, Arkansas. Boy, I'd love to be there right now. What a beautiful place. How strong is Razorback NIL? We know, and I know a lot about Arkansas. Wes, you do too, but Warren Stevens, J.B. Hunt, the Walton, there is extraterrestrial wealth in Arkansas. Rice at 14. People talk about, the price of oil, a barrel of oil, Wes, and friends. Also think about what is a bushel of rice costing. When you're getting 260 to 280 bushels an acre, 1,000 acres of rice at $14 a bushel. Do the math. Jethro Bodine here, Gazinda's that's $3,920,000 before cost on 1,000 acres of rice. There's a lot of money in this state, Wes. What's the climate on NIL and how aggressive is Arkansas? And it isn't just for football, but a rising tide, football floats all the other boats.
Yeah, no, they're doing really well. I mean, they're not giving out Dodge trucks to all 85 members of the team, but they're doing well. I think they can always do better, and they're always wanting to raise more money for their, one Razorback fund. I know basketball gets a big chunk of it, and Musselman is doing a very good job with it, and it's paid off with his teams and with the results of his team. So. But no, I don't. It's like anything, guys. If you got money, you always need more money, right? And that's the case with Arkansas. They're doing. I think they're doing better now because it's legal. But I know they could always use more money in their NIL funds.
Guys, I think Arkansas, as Rob pointed out, Arkansas has gazillionaires and bunches of them. It probably has more, other than the Aggies and Oklahoma, probably has more people who have a lot of commas in their bank accounts than any other school. And Dennis, all you got to do is look at who's got their name on buildings there regarding to the athletic department. I think it's a tough situation because you've got people who want to win now, who remember back when Frank Broyles used to be good for 9 wins a year, and I think that people want. It's kind of like the situation Billy Napier's in. It wasn't all that long ago that Steve Spurrier won 127 games in 12 years. Wasn't all that long ago that Urban Meyer won 65 games in 6 years. And people will judge you by what happened in the past, not what you've got inherited in the future. And I look at what Sam's got to do, and he's digging out of a hole that wasn't of his making. Just like Billy Napier is digging out of an 11-year hole that he didn't make, but he's got to dig it out of it. And he, because he's the coach of record now, he's the one that gets the heat. And I don't think it's fair, but it's what it is.
Well, fans want to win now, and when you lose week after week after week after week, and then you have Alabama coming up next. I know what I'm in store for. And look, I was mad too. I was watching that game. I turned it off at the end of the fourth quarter, and that's not me. But I was disgusted, and I'd seen enough, and I saw the writing on the wall, and I knew what was happening. It was just, the defense played really, really well. They played. They gave it everything they had, but then at the end of the game, they were worn out and they had nothing left and couldn't stop Ole Miss. And you get one more opportunity, and KJ throws an interception. So it's going to be a rough day. It's going to be a rough week. It's going to probably be a rough 2 weeks with Alabama coming up next. But, that's the key. And that's what honestly gives me hope. If this was, another coach, I would think the season's over, that he's going to lose the locker room. This team's going to give up.
Yeah.
But I do think they think the world of Sam Pittman. They're going to keep playing for Sam Pittman. And I think they'll get some wins down the stretch.
Well, if you think about it, it's always darkest before dawn. I'm telling my clients that in the stock market, everybody can't be right at the same time. Al Goldman, head of technical market analysis at AG Edwards, said that on the Squawk Box for years, but they're right. So now I like this one, Jethro Tull in Wilson, Arkansas, over in Mississippi County. Rice farmers love the Razorbacks. We need offensive linemen. Offer NIL deals to offensive linemen. And what I did find out about Utah is those are leases on those Dodge Ram pickup trucks, which have been made really famous by the very popular TV show Yellowstone. But Wes, what about that? Again, you're around a lot of Hog fans, and they want to win. Boy, I'm around a lot of them, and they're madder than a bunch of wet hens. How much is too much to offer a 17, 18-year-old kid who has yet to play a down of college football? And, again, you're not supposed to use it. It's really supposed to happen once they get there. It's confusing to me.
No, it is not supposed to be used for recruiting. And it is supposed to be name, image, likeness. Once you get there, this is what, you have earned for using your likeness. But when you're just getting money to show up, that's not what this is all about. But are you going to play the game? Because there are others that are doing that. And, in the state of Arkansas, they're considering the House and this here at the state is looking at NIL for high school kids. Now, what the primary use of this would allow schools like the University of Arkansas, once you're committed, not even signed, but committed, you will sign like a commitment paper. Once you're committed, you can be paid by the University of Arkansas. And they feel like that would be very good and for kids in Arkansas to entice them to stay home and play for the Razorbacks. Not that they've been doing a really good job in the state of Arkansas, but they feel like this is something that could help them with recruiting in the state of Arkansas. But it all boils down to it, and they've been doing well, we thought, and that's what's so puzzling, because they've been getting some good offensive linemen, some homegrown offensive linemen. They felt like, that this was the future. They were some big Sam Pittman type offensive linemen, but I don't know if they've been developed, or that's the question. Yeah. Why haven't they been developed? Where are these guys? Why aren't they ready to play? The guys that are coming in, they're struggling, just where is the development? And Coach Pittman stepped up for, his offensive line coach last week, early in the week, and said, this is the same guy that, when we were number one in the SEC in rushing with Ole Miss back and forth 2 years ago, he was the same offensive line coach. Nothing's changed. He knows what he's doing. He's a very good offensive line coach. We just got to get to work with these guys and get them going in the right direction. So it's puzzling, and it's hard to understand.
Yeah. Lawrence in Memphis, Missouri already has a law like this. I think if you sign in December and you're still in high school in Missouri, you're an in-state kid, you can get NIL. So, but again, I live in Memphis. I spent a lot of time in Arkansas. I mean, we're called TAMs, Tennessee, Arkansas, Mississippi. I really can tell you more about Arkansas and Mississippi, certainly when it comes to duck hunting, than I can Tennessee. But
you had an ABA team called the Memphis Tams at one point.
Johnny Newman played for them. I mean, Wes, where did you go to college?
I went to Texas State. It was Southwest Texas back in the day, in San Marcos, Texas. Yeah.
Okay.
Back when the Bobcats were good, I'm sure.
No, I came right after that in the early 90s. They had just come off all their winning streaks in the late 80s, so I missed all that.
By the way, we had a really interesting I think Ken Capps said this maybe on the show Saturday or Friday, talking about UT San Antonio. I mean, they've turned that whole city into road runners. And you talked about a great road trip for a football game. San Antonio, and you are from Jacksonville, which is in North Texas. But man, Wes, just an aside, who's going to be speaking, by the way, at the Touchdown Club today in Little Rock? Y'all have a great Touchdown Club, friends. It's an incredibly good Touchdown Club.
Yeah, today we have Butch Jones, head coach of Arkansas State. And they finally found them a quarterback, a true freshman, and now, they had 1-2 in a row, but they got beat by Troy on the road. Very good Troy team, so no shame in that. But we got Butch Jones, and you mentioned UTSA. Jeff Traylor, the head coach, who used to be the assistant head coach here at the University of Arkansas with Chad Morris. And to bring it all around, Jeff was the head coach of the Jacksonville Fighting Indians for a while, right after I graduated. So that connection with Coach and at UTSA, and a lot of Razorback fans kind of keep up with him because he was. The whole Chad Morris thing didn't work, but there were a lot of people that really respected him.
Yeah. I mean, his record in high school is unbelievable. I mean, it's incredible. But I tell you what, again, Nathan Perotti was on, and he's just, he is Razorback. I said, you've got NIL for life. I said, what'd you get your degree in at Arkansas? It's the business. I said, so you can tell people, I'm a graduate of the University of Arkansas, Walton College of Business. That'll open up a lot of doors. And he's exactly what I think about student athlete. Wasn't all SEC, all American, didn't miss practice, graduated, did it right, worked his butt off. NIL is one thing, Razorback for life. He can come back in this state and in Texas, a lot of areas, and basically open up a lot of doors by doing it. Wes, always love having you on. Just great perspective. And again, you want to talk about Pepperdine? I'm already thinking I want to go to Malibu, California, because hey, who would not like going out there? But I'm with you on the Razorbacks, and you know the season is what it is. We'll see what happens Saturday against Alabama. But let people know how they can follow you, keep up with all your great work, as well as Fox Sports Channel 16 in Little Rock.
Yeah, go listen to us. We'll be on the air here in about 10 minutes, 1037thebuzz.com. Plus, we have an app. Go to the App Store, download the 1037 The Buzz app, and then you can follow me on TV, fox16.com. We're on Twitter. It's Wes, 2 S's in Wes, _more.
All right. Hey, thanks so much. Share the show. Give us a retweet. We'll do it for you as well. We appreciate it. Wes with 2 S's. Thanks so much.
You bet, guys. Have a great week.
You too. All right, friends. Again, Wes, we watch him, as my grandmother would say, hey, I like to look at old Johnny Carson on the TV at night. Wes is on the news. He's really, really good. They got a Fox Sports Channel 16 in Little Rock. Of course, we get the Memphis and the Little Rock stations over here. We got 3 different big TVs all hooked up to different systems and all, but we'll be back in Memphis here shortly after the show. But man, Sam Pittman, everybody likes him. I was reading on one of my threads last night. Diehard Razorback fans. I don't care if we got a coach everybody likes and loves and blah, blah, blah. I want a guy that wins. God bless America and all this stuff. And sound like Boomhauer on King of the Hill. But you want to win.
It's like Will Muschamp here. Everybody liked Will. Everybody wanted Will to win, but he didn't. And you look at he's a guy that I think had he spent 2 years learning how to be a head coach at a Bowling Green and then graduated to Utah and then come to Florida, he's a guy I think that could have really done well. And you can talk all you want to about David Jolly. David Jolly, let me tell you something, buddy. They can talk all they want to about Carson Beck and Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers is the best player in America at any position, period. Should but won't win the Heisman Trophy. But the guy that I think is so instrumental in what's going on at Georgia is Will Muschamp. You've got him there. That is a Will Muschamp defense. I mean, Glenn Schumann, I know, is a fine young coach. He's going to be somebody's good head coach someday. That is a Will Muschamp defense. And that defense is, when that defense shows up, all they got to do is get a few points. And that's the thing. It takes the pressure off of Carson Beck. Carson Beck all of a sudden now knows he can go out there and just fling it. And that defense will take care of him.
Yeah.
And they'll cover for his mistakes. And people forget that's why you have defensive coordinators. LSU, my gosh, LSU can score on anybody, and LSU can be scored on by anybody.
Yeah.
LSU gave up 527 yards. They managed to win, but they gave up 527 yards Saturday. They're dead last in the Southeastern Conference in total defense. I think they rank something like 124th nationally.
Wow. Yeah. Well, friends, we run out of time, man. Most often we see the face of Christ and least among us. Folks, think about that. Happy Columbus Day. We live in the greatest country in the history of the world. Read your history. Free speech, First Amendment, ardently and fervently revered and protected here on Sidelines. We don't mince words. We tell it like it is. Catch Franz Beard, GatorBaitMedia.com. Cost is only an issue in the absence of any added value. Whatever it costs, it ain't much. You need to be a subscriber. Also, watch him on the Buddy Martin Show, 9 p.m. Eastern on YouTube. A lot of great information coming out of there. His daily thoughts are show prep for shows across America and around the world, because what he writes comes from that head, and it is first-rate information. Have a great day, everybody. Again, happy Columbus Day. Celebrate. Go out and do some great things to help other people. Until tomorrow, we got another great show in store for you. We are out of here.